Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. This episode is an incredible exits episode. We've got Jay Campbell on the podcast. He recently worked with my good friend Walker Dybel in exiting his business. He and his partner built the business up since 2019. And in late 2021, something happened that made them go, oh man, we should really just stop stressing so much and just sell this business. They connected with Walker in January. It was listed for sale in early March, and then they exited by, I think, the third week of April. They were done and moved on, except they actually did an equity roll. He talks about that a little bit, how that worked, why they decided to do that. He also talks about a number of things that he's done personally. We talked about domains that he just bought and how much he paid for it and what the process was, and what his next adventures are and things of that nature. It's a great episode. Stick around to the very end. He gives some good nuggets and tips all the way through, but especially at the end. Let's go talk to Jay. Here we go. Hey folks, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. I'm Joe Valley, your host. And today I've got Jay Campbell with me. Jay, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. How are you, man?
Joe Valley, I am amazing and thrilled, humbled, honored, and privileged to be here with you today. So let's roll.
Well, you're quite a successful guy in many, many different ways. We talked just a minute about some of the stuff in the background there. You've recently sold a business through Quiet Light using your now friend, Walker Dybel.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to hear all about all of that. So rather than me trying to spew what you do, why don't you give the folks listening a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And again, I'm honored to be here today, man. Thank you for the privilege. It's always a blessing when I get a chance to talk about myself, right? The personality of Jay Campbell. So we, recently sold. You guys helped us tremendously in positioning our company and brand to the public, and it was actually a very rather uneventful sale. I know that we're in very strange times these days economically from about 50 million different angles, depending on your lens. So everything that we dealt with, my business partner and I, was just simple. I mean, we never really even had a single hiccup, with the buyers, and it just went amazing. So it's all I can say is let me sing your guys' praises. Everything you did, Walker personally put together just this amazing packet on our brand and everything. And I'm just so grateful and so humble. But, the Jay Campbell story is, I was a guy that wrote some books on hormone optimization back in 2015. Which became the number one selling book of all time on testosterone, therapeutic testosterone. And then from there, I met all these amazing people, doctors, researchers, biochemical folks. And I started to really build my quote unquote brand in speaking and also writing about health optimization. I've written 6 books now subsequently. 4 of them are, considered international bestsellers. And I have a pretty big name as I don't know how you classify me. Some people classify me as a biohacker. Some people just classify me as an alchemical guy. Because I really I wouldn't say try, I'm doing it, but, bridging the spiritual with physical. That's kind of what I do and where I'm going today, since exit. It's about building the personal brand and teaching more and more people about the importance of, essentially raising their consciousness.
No, normally I don't jump to, well, let's figure out how people can reach out to you or connect with you and learn about what you do. But given the fact that you're doing the connection between mental and physical, spiritual and physical, and I have a personal need to be healthier and not focus on work all the time. Exactly. Do you have a go-to URL where people can learn more about what you do and what you share and what you teach in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. The home website, and I recently, it's perfect timing. Recently, was able to acquire my domain. I've had a guy cyber stalking on my domain, and every once in a while he'll reach out to me and say, "I'll sell it to you for this," and I'm laughing. Yeah. And so I finally sent him an email about a month back and said, "I will give you $2,500 for jcampbell.com." Because I have my primary domain, to answer your question, is jccampbell.com, and they can go there and find all sorts of stuff. Contact me, get free books, all sorts of great stuff. But it will be eventually jcampbell.com, which is awesome. Great accomplishment for me. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, from health optimization to spirituality, to fitness, to fat loss, to how to, use peptides and hormones. In fact, I probably have right now, we just launched a peptides course It's probably the number one peptides course on planet Earth right now for teaching people from a very lay perspective, like how to use therapeutic peptides. It's kind of a complex topic. We don't have to go into it on the show today, but a lot of people are getting into that. And, if you speak to any of the people who are foremost in the field of medicine today, they'll tell you that peptides is really the future of it.
Well, let's not go into the weeds there because I want to know all about peptides, but I wrote it down and put a question mark, meaning I'm going to check it later. Sure. So in regards to domain purchasing, where did the guy who owns JayCampbell.com start out price-wise?
It's a great question.
Ballpark.
Let me think. I know I got to go back. I'm happy. No, I'm very transparent. So his last offer to me was 30 grand.
30.
Yes. And I laughed in his face, literally emailing him. And eventually he didn't want to deal with me anymore. And he started to deal with I don't know how he found me through GoDaddy because I own so many different domains in there. But I have a guy in GoDaddy who said, hey, this guy's serious now. He says he's willing to make a deal. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, here's my deal. And he can fly a kite, but he took it. So, I was very persuasive. I'm obviously a writer and a content guy. So, I wrote a very persuasive email. I said, hey, look, man, this is the last offer I will ever offer you because JC Campbell is as good as Jay Campbell to me. So if I can't get it, it's not a big deal. Good luck if you ever find another Jay Campbell willing to give you $2,500. And it literally in an hour, he said, okay.
That's awesome. When I wrote the Exitpreneur's Playbook, I registered the domain exitpreneur.com, but I'm such a dumbass. I spelled it wrong.
That's awesome.
It's EUR, not, it's UER, not EUR. And so I registered the wrong domain. Turns out somebody else owned it. And I was in discussions with Walker and my business partner, Mark, about whether I should buy the domain or not. And I think the initial offer was something like $10,000 or $15,000, what they wanted to sell it for. Yeah. They're at $250,000 last check.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't bothered asking for 9 months or so, and I'm certainly not going to buy the domain for anything like
that's
that.
Insane.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, and my personal name, I'll tell you right now, thank you, because my personal name, I owned JoeValley.com a decade ago. Yeah, and then I let it go because I wasn't smart. And then a photographer named Joe Valley took it. And as we're talking, I just looked it up. And it's registered, but may still be available. So I may be able to buy it. And I'm going to go back and look and buy it, knowing that this particular recording is not going to air till July. So I've got some time before anybody in the audience tries to steal it from me and sell it to me for $250,000. You sneaky entrepreneur bastards. Anyway, all right. Let's talk about this brand that you built and sold through Quiet Light using Shuck. Is it the first online business that you built that had physical products?
Technically, no. So I was actually involved in a supplement company, actually two, but one that was serious. So no, the answer is no, but it was the first one that grew, of that magnitude.
And did it grow out of your experience in the naturopathic space? The second one that you just sold through Quiet Light? And so, if yes, how did you connect? And how did you connect with your partner and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So yes and no. So my background, as who I am. So I've had a couple of incarnations in this lifetime, but just to give you a big picture of Jay Campbell and for the listening audience, up until I was 41 years old, I would consider myself a very highly accomplished wage slave, right? I was always doing all these things for other people. And I had a very, I think what was a Shawshank Redemption. Remember, Morgan Freeman was like, you have an institutional mindset. That's what I was. My dad trained me to get a good job and you progress up the ladder and you become CEO and you get the golden parachute. So I never really had an entrepreneur mentor or mentorship growing up, but I was really good at the things I did. And what I did was in my 30s was I was involved in digital marketing in the automotive space. So from 27 to 40, I became pretty accomplished. I was like a senior VP. I worked for Kelley Blue Book. I also worked for Auto Trader. I worked for Edmunds. I worked for all the big endemic car automotive sites, in various capacities. And so I was really learning in that. At 40, Kelley Blue Book got bought by Auto Trader. And I was one of the 3 highest paid guys at the company. And I'm not kidding you, the next day, sacked. We didn't even know.
No severance or anything?
Dude, we didn't even know they had sold the company. I mean, it was like privately announced inside to the Kelly Family Trust, which is down here in Irvine, Southern California. And then they let everybody know like 3 days later. But the next day, they just got rid of the three highest paid guys in the company. And we didn't understand what was going on other than that it was in 2010. As you remember, there was all sorts of going ons. But they did it because they cheated us out of stock that we were going to get. So long story short, I then resurfaced in a couple other companies. But as you know, in 2010, 2011, 2012 were crazy times. There were companies were going through all sorts of stuff. The company that I landed with actually was purchased 1 month later, and they just wiped out their entire sales organization. So then I just did various consulting. I moved back to Los Angeles in 2012 with my, I had actually just come out of a divorce. There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened, tectonic stuff. And I met my current wife. Has been the best thing that ever happened to me, who was a very successful residential real estate person. And when she dated me for a couple of months and saw what I did, she was like, why would you not, do this for me? Because all the things you do, I could use. And I was kind of like, I'm not an entrepreneur and I need that check twice a month. And, so I was very against it. But I eventually took the plunge. She convinced me. And man, we crushed it in residential real estate from 2012 to 2015. We built an awesome, very successful team here in Southern California, which we still own. I'm totally not in it anymore. But I taught, all the various technological things that I understood to those folks that came after me. And so, flash forward to 2019 and really 2017, 2018, I was part of a supplement company. I had a couple partners. Joe had a vast awareness or knowing of the supplement industry. I know how to formulate. I know about products. As a biohacker, I know what works, what doesn't work, and stuff like that. So we were able to build a supplement company, which I'll mention to you because it's still around. It was called Optimum Life Nutrition. And Optimized Life Nutrition. But I didn't like one of my partners. And so it didn't last long. They bought me out. I was one of the guys that really designed all the products. They had a couple of really awesome products, a nootropic and another advanced like thermogenic fat loss supplement. But I was like, look, not working with you, buy me out. I don't care, go my separate ways. And then in 2019, I decided to build the company that we just sold, which really came from my awareness in the supplement space, which you had originally asked me. And then my business partner, formulation background, he had been in the biopharma space for over 20 years and he knew everything backwards and forwards. And him and I had been friends for like 3 years. We met on the internet through Twitter and had just always kind of mused to ourselves, man, we should start something together, but then we just never did it. And then sure enough, I came back from Peru in 2019 in September, which is when I literally shifted my brand from Jay Campbell, what I was known around worldwide, which was the testosterone guy, to Jay Campbell, the Raise Your Vibration guy. And at the same time, my business partner, by the way, just said to me, hey, man, let's build our own company. Here's some of the things that I can do. And I'll send it to you and your wife and you can, check it out. And if you like it, we'll go from there. And so, the people that know us know that my wife took the stuff before I even had a chance to use it and came back to me like a week later and said, what the hell is this? Like, this is the most amazing shit I've ever used in my life. You guys got to sell this.
Was that topical or something that she ingested? Was that something she ingested or topical?
No, it's topical.
Topical. Jay, how old are you now?
How old do you think I am, Joe?
54.
A little bit older. I mean, I'm a little bit younger. I'm 51.
Okay. Well, I was just doing bad math there. I was going, okay, 41 and I was adding the years. Look, folks, y'all sometimes are kind enough to reach out to me and say, it's hard to believe that I'm actually as old as I am. I'm 56.
That's awesome, man.
But dude, you're a strong 52-year-old. You look very, very healthy. So whatever you're doing, more people ought to do. So go to jccampbell.com and check that out. But the story that you've got first, let's talk about that partner that you didn't like, because there's a lot of folks in the audience that may be considering a partnership. The only time, no, I shouldn't say that because I have a business partner now. 2 times in my life, I had a partnership where I was out golfing with my attorney and my CPA. So they both knew how much money I made and they wanted to get in on my life.
Right. And
we were driving home from golf and talking about this. They were talking about, they're both entrepreneurial minded, CPAs and accountants. And they were talking about this particular product and whatnot. And I'm like, well, if you guys want to do that, I'll help. Literally pulled the car over and then, asked me to jump in, and we became 1/3 partners. And it didn't really work at all because the 1/3 partner, really, I was doing most of the work. Right. And so I bowed out. I brought in somebody else to do what I did and bowed out of it and all that. Well, how did you meet the partner that you ended up not liking, and why didn't you like him?
So it's the exact same thing. So my best friend in the whole world, I can name him, Jim Brown, who I was friends with for 28 years. Like, he was even a mentor to me and a lot of the things that I learned. He was actually at one time a professional bodybuilder, and then he became a really, really successful surgical sales guy, and ended up like buying into a company. Very, very successful guy. So it was him and I. And when we got into this, we needed a money guy, and the money guy, who will not be named, got in, and he was also very successful, still is, with the companies he owns. He owns a software company that's worth like 150 million. He still hasn't sold it. But he didn't do anything, Joe. We brought him in and nothing happened. And I did all the work, like, kind of like you. And I'm like, this is insane. And I went to Jim and I'm like, bro, like, I can't work with this dude anymore. Like, what is he bringing to the table? We hired him for money, and he don't give us money, and he's not doing any. He also had a big, email marketing list and stuff, and he wasn't marketing to his list. He wasn't talking about the stuff. And so I was just like, one night I just decided, but the final nail in the coffin is we actually hired a consultant, and we brought him in, and he's a very big name in the sports supplement industry. And we paid him a lot of money. I think it was like 15 G's for one day. And he gave us a great advice and strategy. And we went to dinner, and dude, this guy got wasted and brags about his net worth and his software company and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, what am I doing with this dude? Right. So like on the ride home, he was, it was in Orange County where we flew him in, and we rented out one of those whatever those workstations are that now it's gone out of business. I forgot what it was. What it was. Everybody knows it was like a big joke because they were listed on NASDAQ and everything. WeWork or whatever the hell that scam was. WeWork. And so we sat there, and, the whole day got all this great info, then went to dinner, and he made an absolute fool of himself. And I drove him home to not his home because he lives in somewhere else, but he was staying in a hotel in Irvine. I dropped him off, and I looked over at my best friend and said, I'm done. I'm out. There's no way. That's it. It was a nail in the coffin. And he's like, look, man, he's like, we can't do that. Josh has got the money. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit about the money. I cannot work with people that I can't be vibrationally aligned with. Right. So it's like, I'm done. And truth be told, Jim chose him. And the rest is history. I mean, this guy was my best friend for 28 years. It's now been almost 5 years, and I haven't even spoken to him. Not an email, not a text message, not a voice message. And look, I get it. People go their separate ways in life. But it was just weird for me, but it taught me a lot of, very valuable lessons, like for the next partnership that I ended up getting into.
Yeah. You got to choose the right people because you're as committed to them in even more stressful situations than your spouse.
Totally, right? Man. Totally. And right. Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing that happened. I remember, I sent him an email, and he was in Hawaii with his family, and he calls me rambling drunk. And I'm like, I got him on speakerphone. I'm letting my wife listen to this. Like, can you believe this? And she's like, well, that's what happens. So you're right. You are married to your business partner, and you better make sure that you're vibrationally aligned, or else, like, as you know, it doesn't work.
Yeah. In my situation, the advice that I give, that I applied to my current partnership with Mark at Quiet Light, is that we both have very distinct roles. We make company decisions together, yep. Strategic plans together. Yep. But I have a certain role, and he has a certain role. Fortunately for me, his role is taking all the crap that flows downstream. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And he's actually back on to podcasting, folks. You've heard the intro for, years that it's Mark and Joe are the hosts, but Mark hasn't hosted a podcast in 18 months, but he did one a couple of days ago. So it'll air either before or just after this one, Jay. All right, let's jump to your exit. This business that you created with this new business partner, you built it up, you did quite a bit of revenue. I mean, you just launched it in 2019, and now in early 2022. So really just less than 3 years later, you're exiting. Yeah. Is it because you set a goal to exit, or you just woke up and you both said, you know what, this is good. Let's cash in while we can. Let's focus on some other things. What was the mindset behind exiting?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really there's a bunch of different answers. So if you, and Walker knows the story, in November of last year, I was actually in Cabo San Lucas. I just come from a meditation retreat with my wife, complete silence. And it was the last day that before we came home, we were going to like reacclimate, and we rented this, really nice hotel in Los Cabos. And my business partner and I talked on the phone. It was on a Sunday afternoon. We were flying out early Monday morning. And we had just had, it was obviously a week before Black Friday, right? It was that Sunday before. And we already had an amazing November. We knew it was going to be our biggest month ever. And we were talking plans for what we needed to do from a strategic planning in 2022 and where we were going to go, and how much money we needed to get here. We had like 5 new products that we were going to phase in at some point in 2022. And that's where we were. And 1 week later, we got a letter, from one of the FDA, attorney sniffer, we call them, teams that said, hey, you guys are, you sell peptide solutions and, blah, 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 blah. And do you know? And so whenever we would get something like that, we would send it to our, in-house counsel, and we'd say, what is this? Because they weren't asking for money or anything. And, our in-house counsel came back to us 4 days later. We're like, that's serious shit, right? That's a watchdog deal for the FDA. And we're like, what? So at that point, and by the way, now we had just had our biggest month ever in November. And we're getting ready to blow up, ramp up, do this, hire that. We just hired this brand new, really amazing agency that was going to do a lot better than anybody we'd used before. So a lot of things were moving and shaking, but my partner and I just sat down in the second week of December, and we're like, what should we do about this? We actually talked with other people in the industry about peptides, and every single person who knows anything about peptides is always going to look at you and say the same thing: nebulous, very gray, very cloudy. There's no crystal ball, could go away tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of just behooved us to let's ask and find out if we did, what would it be worth? And as we started to talk to people and get the feedback that we got, we were like, okay, we could probably keep a piece of the company and still exit and, not have to worry about waking up one day and it's over. Right. And, very truthfully, with the work Walker did, I was reluctantly, I was optimistic, but I was also reluctantly cautious, because some of the people that we spoke to initially were like, oh, we talked to our regulatory attorneys and they were like, nope. So my concern was, what was going to happen either way, because ultimately, if, nobody wants to take this on because of that risk, it doesn't matter what our profit and loss is and, the valuation and where we can go and stuff like that. There's just too big of a risk. But thankfully, the company that did acquire us were like, that wasn't even a hiccup to them. They're like, we have an army of those guys, and this is what we do anyway. So he's like, we're not concerned about it. So, but that was really it. It was more about do we really want to risk this on ourselves? Or would we rather, sell now to somebody with greater know-how, greater marketing, because truthfully, and I know you know this and you've written about this in your book, but when you're dealing with a supply chain crisis, the shit that everybody had to deal with in the last 2 years with China and overseas shipping. And I mean, I'm sure we could talk a whole podcast on the racket that overseas shipping became in the last year and a half with tangible goods. There's a lot of negatives, and it became almost every 45 to 60 days, I wouldn't call it a cash flow crisis, but just that thought of oh shit, if this goes bad, what could happen? I mean, I could tell the listeners, I did a podcast for the guy, what's his name? Austin Browner, for his, talking about what happened to us. But when we launched our new product last year in 2021, in the very beginning of the year, every one of the bottles broke because they were pharma grade bottles for our hair loss product, and they snapped in the cold weather in Chicago. And so it cost us literally $100,000 in, real money to have to replenish and find and source new bottles. And, obviously during COVID.
So all this goes to
get the bottles in time.
Yeah. It's these little things that keep entrepreneurs up at night and make them stressed during the day or focused on work during dinner when they should be focused on the family. So all of the corporate folks out there that wonder, dude, you're running a great business. You're making a great living. I can't give the exact numbers, guys, but it's very, very healthy in terms of the discretionary earnings. This is why people sell, right? Because sometimes it's just the stress and the anxiety. It's keeping up, and especially in the early years like this, you're still 3 years old, and until you get to a certain size, these hiccups cause cash flow crunches that affect your personal life.
Deeply. Bro, I mean, Joe, in truth to that, my life in the last 2 months has been like the least amount of stress that I've had in probably 6 or 7 years. I mean, and as you know, you're right. I mean, it is a psychological component, probably more than anything else, because it's that going to bed at night thinking what might happen. And you get so caught up in the like, oh shit, if I have to count for that. And I know you don't want to live in the future or obviously in the past, but when you're owning a brick and mortar, a Shopify brand, that is dealing with the ways that we're dealing with, it's very difficult. It's almost inescapable. So, once we started talking, and then obviously we started talking to Walker, it just made a lot more sense. And, I'll be honest, like the people that acquire us, I think that they would be the angel investor, picture in the dictionary for like what they do, how willing they were to come in and help us where we were really, where we had significant weaknesses. And now as a go forward, like working with them, in fact, Walker texted me like 2 days ago and was like, how's everything going? And I'm like, dude, it can't be better. They want to do this, that, and the other. They want to keep obviously both me and my partner, intricately involved. We're still 10% owner or whatever, but like the reality is like they treat us like we're still running the company.
All right. So then let me address that. I wrote down a couple of things as you were talking just now and before. So I was going to ask the question about an equity role. So you sold 90% of the company. You listed the business for sale.
Yep.
In the teaser or in the client interview, did Walker say, hey, are you open? What kind of sale are you looking for? Are you open to an equity role or are you looking for a full exit? Did he have to say that, or he just left it as a full exit? No,
he left it, and then we negotiated that in. Yeah.
And the reason, folks, why Jay and his partner did a 10% equity role, you didn't need the full exit, so you're okay financially, so you're keeping 10% there.
Yeah.
The next exit will probably be, hopefully, the goal is that 10% is going to be worth as much as the full exit someday.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Right. Okay. So that's good. And you'll also get distributions as they distribute, leftover funds and things of that nature, which is good. How much work are you putting in? I think I saw in the details in the closed sales report that you're actually on salary as well. Is that accurate?
So I'm not. Nick is for new products and stuff because he's really the formulator and stuff. But what they gave me, which is actually even better, is I am the master affiliate. So now all the influencers, that will come on board and believe me, there will be some big names. I mean, I get a piece.
Oh, okay.
So it's crazy. And they just built out so the guys at their marketing firm, one of the guys that runs the company, is a partner in the company, is like a genius pyramid guy in the real estate business. And so he knows how to leverage people in and, keep the pyramid going. And so, when they had a couple of calls with me and showed me like, this is the game plan, I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I don't need a salary. Happy to do that. So I'm not working that much. I'm obviously still in that kind of interim period right now where they're changing the affiliate brand because we were using Reversion to a new one, which is the pyramid-based one, which is also way more advanced and much more functionality so that they can start layering it in. But, in truth, I'll just be who I really am now, which is a guy who does podcasts, hawks products, talks about various things, fosters connections with name brand people. So it's really not going to be much work for me. And as you know, I won't be having to do the difficult, day-to-day mind crunch and calculations that I was doing for 2 years previous.
That's awesome. All right. Second question was, you had this issue, you had this letter about FDA compliance with peptides. And I'm guessing knowing Walker and the way we work at Quiet Life, that was full disclosure. That wasn't withheld as a secret surprise to have the buyer deal with. It was in the client interview, talked about that and how you addressed it and how to address it going forward. Full disclosure, right?
Yeah, 100% full disclosure. But they're really, with those guys, there's really not, it's so nebulous even from their side. All we can really think is like, it could be that. And so, there's nothing for them saying like, hey, your product is at a risk, or, like they're looking at us differently. It's just kind of like, hey, we know what you're doing, and, we're out there. So it was more of like a whole, like in a worst case scenario, but it got worse when the first couple of people who were all over us and wanted to offer, and then they found out that we're like, well, we make cosmeceutical peptide-based products. A couple of them backed off. And so then it was more like my worry or my internal stake of like, oh shit, but there really isn't anything out there other than just the typical, like, hey, we know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, we're letting you know, everybody, the big brother is always watching.
Always watching. I used to sell supplements as well. I sold that company back in 2010 before joining Quiet Light. And I remember getting a letter and it was a letter, it wasn't an email, from an attorney general somewhere in a tiny little county in California.
Unbelievable.
And telling me that my claims were an issue or whatever. And, and they were asking for $10,000. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm getting bribed by an attorney general. I shared it with my attorney, and he's like, he's fishing, man. How many units have you sold? How many customers have purchased product in that county? I looked at him like 0. He goes,
0.
Tell him to F off. And I did. I changed my ads though a little bit. Instead of will, I changed it to may. I learned an awful lot. That
see, we never. I'm with that, and I've seen that, and I've experienced that, not personally, but through friends and stuff. But we never, because my partner's biopharma background, he knows backwards and forwards what you can and can't say. Like we never made claims. It was always may, has been shown to, may, could possibly, so it was really not even that. It was more, like I said, like the letter came from one of their watchdog groups. And when our attorneys told them that was one of their watchdog groups, me and Nick, my business partner, were just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, just we gotta be cautious.
Just out of curiosity, in the space that you're in, did you, for the listening audience that is also in the supplement space or puts stuff on their bodies, did you get product liability insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So actually, there's a funny story about that. It's really good for everybody. So we have really good insurance, and we thought we were completely covered in all aspects. But here's where if this can help anybody, where we didn't have coverage is after it went to our 3PL and was dropped off in the warehouse of the 3PL. We didn't have coverage if the 3PL magically lost it or destroyed it.
And that's where you ended up having those bottles crack?
Because, well, it wasn't them. This is actually separate. This is a whole nother story without going into the full details, but they lost a huge shipment. And after an investigation, oh, no problem. Our insurance will cover it. We'll cover you. We're like, well, what are the terms of the insurance? Oh, well, we'll get them to you when we don't have them top of your head. And then it was, dude, 5 cents per pound of our product. So basically, just put it this way, we got jammed out of about 75K.
Yeah, that's a lot. So you lost 100K in cracked bottles and then 75K there. And yeah, being an entrepreneur is not a cakewalk, folks.
We thought we had to the teeth, to the eyes, every T dotted and crossed, but that's one of those things where, like, until you actually experience something like that, you don't even know to ask for it.
Yeah.
And the 3PL guy was like, oh no, you guys are fully covered. Of course we asked them, but then you see the terms and you're like, dude.
Yeah. Pretty bad. All right, let's talk about listing the business and the offers that you ended up with. I'm looking here. It looks like you wound up with 2 offers presented to you and only had to accept 1 LOI. The 2 offers, by the way, is half what the average has been over the last 12 months. Why do you think that was? Was it because it went under LOI so quickly? Let's say the engagement. Yeah. it looks like it went pretty quickly. Is that the case?
So yeah, so there were like 4 people that jumped wanting to get more information, and they were like basically all of the ones that pushed away initially.
Okay.
Because of the fact that we're peptides based products. And again, when I say peptides based product for the listening audience, we're not clinical by any stretch of the imagination. But again, there is a lot of peptide based products out there now, and so people just have this idea like, peptides, nebulous, not FDA regulated, blah blah blah. But again, we were nowhere close to that. It's not a risk. If anybody's listening to this, but I personally think the reason that, and again, this is just my personal opinion, but the reason that we got such great offers is because we have a product that solves hair loss in about 80% of the users. And we just we don't have enough, I would say visibility, from a mainstream or a public perspective yet. And so I think that the companies that, really wanted our product, wanted to buy us right away, saw that themselves and were familiar with the product and familiar with, various influencers that were promoting it. And we're like, wow, we want it. Because the other guys, I don't know if Walker talked to you about them, were in the UK, and they came back, and once they knew that, we were going to take the other guys, they were like, we'll double our offer. And we're like, sorry, that's great. You can say whatever you want, but we like the other guys better. And we listened to both of them, and they were both great people and folks. But the second folks we felt more comfortable with, the ones that accepted.
Okay. So let's just touch on that. I was going to go somewhere else, but the guys from the UK said, okay, we'll double our offer. So you're in a situation where, that's a substantial amount of money.
Yep.
Yep. And you just said, no, we like the other guys. Was it because you didn't believe them or feel like they'd get through to closing? Would be difficult to do diligence?
It's a great question. So both my business partner and I were, we talked at length about it, and we were just like, and again, thankfully, he's a 44-year-old guy. He's been through the wars, and obviously I'm a little older than him, and I've been through many. And we just felt comfortable. And the answers that they had given us on like how they were going to do what they were going to do was just way better and way stronger. And the other guys were more loose, more kind of like free-spirited, like, we're talking a big game. They didn't really have the substantiation that we felt like with the current guys. And of course that double, offer was, when Walker came to us later and was like, you're not going to believe this, but we were already about 10 days in. So it really wasn't even a thought process for us to like even think about it.
So the situation there, folks, is that he signed a non-binding letter of intent and could have backed out of it and walked away and chosen the other guys. I sold a business a few years ago for Syed Balki. He owns Opt-in Monster. A lot of folks use their services.
Dude, I have Opt-in Monster on Jay Campbell right now.
There you go. So separately, this is a separate business I sold for Syed, but he had 2 full price offers, one from a jackass and one from a really nice guy. And the really nice guy actually it was an SBA purchase. And at that time, the SBA required a 10% seller note. So we're talking multiple millions of dollars that Syed would have had to carry, several $100,000 in a seller note. And he chose that guy over the jackass that had all cash, because the jackass that had all cash was braggadocious, like your former partner that drank too much.
Yep.
He seemed like he was going to be difficult in due diligence. And there were hints of, this guy is just going to try to renegotiate NDD for absolutely no logical reason.
Yep.
And so he chose the other guy. So for the folks that are, how do I win when I don't have all cash? Just don't be a jackass. That's number one. It looks to me though, like you wound up getting, going under LOI for over asking price.
Yep.
All right.
So, we went back and, we basically just said, hey, we like you a lot. Here's where you're at. Here's where it needs to be. And we're done.
Perfect. And they closed, it looks like in, my goodness, like 38, 39 days, pretty quick.
Literally.
Beautiful. Yeah. Even with an equity roll, which is impressive. And that's great. I was going to just talk about training and transition, but it's not necessary there because you're, staying on the company, and Nick more so than you. How was the due diligence process? How was it? Was it fairly quick Was it
Yeah,
painful?
I mean, honestly, Joe, there was no sweat. We had a stand-up meeting once a week, a Zoom call, and it was every Thursday at 11 a.m. And Walker was on most of them. Obviously my partner and I, and their emissary, and then eventually we met some of their folks from their marketing, and it was amazing. I mean, like I said, it was kind of like I kind of was like a little bit weirded out that it was like so uneventful. I assumed that there would be a couple of gotchas or something, but there really wasn't anything.
When it's done right, when you prepare the package right, and you run the business properly, like it sounds like you did, there shouldn't be too many hiccups.
The only gotcha was the money showing up in our account.
That was the good gotcha or the bad gotcha? What happened? Did it show up late?
It's like, I know, but it's like, when you're dealing with a rather large sum, the money gets sent. And, we had a couple of, we had a capital line, with Shopify for like 70 grand. And then we had whatever else we had for inventory. I can't remember. It was like same number or something like that. And then, those are paid off instantly. But where's our money?
Right. Of course.
9 days later, it shows up, it's
9 days.
Dude, 9 days. Yeah. You can talk to Walker about it. But we kind of expected it. And then with Shopify,
where was it coming from?
They're really nebulous too.
Was it coming from overseas?
There's nobody to call it Shopify.
But 9 days, what was it? They sent it, but it took 9 days to get to you, or it took them 9 days. Where are they located? Where's your buyer? Are they overseas?
Oh, no. Their money showed up immediately, but from their money, paying off the capital line in Shopify, then the money didn't go into our Chase account for 9 days later.
That's odd. That's stressful.
When I sold mine to the banks, they're like, "Oh, Mr. Campbell, I'm sure it's there. It's just the process. It can take up to 7 to 10 business days." We weren't stressed that it wasn't going to show up, and it was just ridiculous because, as you know, you can't transfer the transactions with Shopify until the money, officially changes hands. So like all that we had to deal with and had to go back and count and deal with all that. The cool thing is the buyers expected it to probably happen. So, there was no deal. But like for me and my partner, we're just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a long time. I know if I send a wire I've got a relationship with some marketing folks in Australia that I sent them some money last week, and it showed up 1 day later. It's not that hard. It wasn't as much money as yours, but it's not that hard. It's normally much shorter.
Well, again, if banks, they can lend the money out, right? So I'm sure that's what it was. And they're just lending it out. And, they say it's not there when it really is. It's ones and zeros on a computer screen.
That's all it is. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about something Walker did. And that is you closed in April. And now it's June 1st. We're recording this on June 1st. And you said last week, Walker reached out just to see how things were going. What are your thoughts on that? He's done. He's been paid. He could just move on and never speak to you again. But
honestly, man, Walker's an amazing human being. I consider him a friend. I would, go to a barbecue with him, hang out with him, have a couple pops with him. He's just a cool guy. Like from the very beginning, that was one of the things that really we loved about him. He was very transparent. He was just, he's like one of us. I felt so comfortable, with him from day one.
He is one of you. He is one of you. He's an entrepreneur just like you are, as is everybody that's on the team.
Yeah. It was just, we just felt so comfortable with him. And, I forgot who it was that recommended you guys and that other guy. What's the other guy that I spoke to? I know I'd mentioned him to you. He was also a really nice guy. Something Empire.
Probably not Empire Flippers because they're a competitor.
Empire Flippers. Yeah. So whoever recommended you guys to us, I can't remember. I apologize.
Bob Anderson from
Bob Anderson. Yeah. And also really, really nice guy. Was like, talk to both of them and see what happens. But they were nowhere close to you guys, and again, Bob, great guy, but like, it was just the comfortability that we had with Walker was just instant.
Well, if you do connect with Walker personally, have him order old fashions because he makes the bartender make them absolutely perfect. The only time I drink, my neighbor actually does them pretty well too. But anytime I go out with Walker, if we're at an event or something, I just let him order the old fashions. And sometimes he'll take it back and goes, "Can you change this up one alcohol?" And it comes back and it's just fantastic. That's awesome. The thing there is that we at Quiet Light we do this. Yes, we do this to make a living, but the best part of it is the relationships that we make. The worst part of it sometimes can be, managing people's emotions and expectations, and deals fall apart occasionally, and that can be hard. But it's the relationships that we build, and Walker's one of the best at them. Walker actually was a buyer, Jay, before he joined the Quiet Light team. Yeah. And this another thing for buyers that are out there. Walker was on a conference call trying to buy a particular business. Somebody else ended up buying it, making an offer that was accepted. And then maybe a month later, my business partner, Mark, said, "Hey, team, I've got a client that doesn't want to list the business publicly. This is the deal. Does anybody have a really exceptional buyer out there? Anybody that's just super nice, great to work with?" And I remember, I'm like, that guy, Walker Dybel, boom. And I made the intro. He bought the business. He still owns it today. That's awesome. And not too long after that, he became an advisor on the team. So he's fantastic. I agree.
Very cool.
Do you agree, though, that he should get a haircut and stop looking like mini Tarzan?
Well, the funny thing is that he started using our product, and it was like, dude, like, that's why I'm going to do a better job. He's like, now my hair is going to just grow to unlimited lengths. But no, I think his hair looks good. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about Walker. He was babysitting us too, because, my business partner and I, even though we're very, very close personal friends, we definitely had different ideas about how the business was to be run as we were moving forward. He wanted to hire, a CEO and do all these things. I'm like, bro, we're not hiring a CEO until we get to X, and we're not at X right now. So I mean, like, he did a really good job of marrying us and keeping us, really together and focused, through the whole thing. I mean, like I said, man, if you guys asked me to write you guys a review, you should.
You're doing it right now. So
it'll be glowing.
I appreciate that. I'll tell Walker he needs to reach out to you to get a written review. From the time you thought about selling the business and deciding you wanted to get a valuation to the time you signed an engagement letter, was it fairly quick, or did you think about this 9 months ago and decided to go under engagement in March?
No, it was fairly quick. Obviously, seeing the economy, and, I have a lot of friends that work in Wall Street, and seeing the deterioration that was starting to happen, which we all knew was coming, it just seemed like it was the best thing to do. Also just to get the stress of the day-to-day off. I mean, because again, we had a massive November, and we expected to do, something similar in December, and it was nowhere close. And so it was, and again, our traffic, just really started to lessen and stuff like that. So it was a pretty simple decision for my partner and I just to say, you know what, we don't need to deal with the stress of this day to day anymore.
Yeah, good for you. Congratulations, man. What a journey. What a story. We're running out of time. I want to wrap up, but I
Sure.
really do. And I'm going to put you on the spot here for entrepreneurs that are out there now, just thinking about buying an online business, that have started one, have bootstrapped one, and just trying to get through to the positive cash flow part of the business. Any advice, any tips, any guidance that you would give them, whether it's from, your vibration aspect or entrepreneurship aspect, anything that you want to share with anyone listening in the audience?
Yeah, for sure. If you have a great product and you believe in your product, continue on, don't waver, find a mentor. There are a lot of guys now in the entrepreneurial space that are very successful or have been successful in doing what they're doing. In fact, Joe, I'm doing that now. I bet you I have 2 guys that I'm mentoring that have phenomenal products that I'll be bringing to you guys to sell within the next, year to 2. And I found them because they were customers of ours. Right. So, we're definitely, changing from an economic cycle. Obviously, again, June 2022 right now, things are going to get a lot tougher, I would assume, over the next year to year and a half. But great products will, exceed and overcome all markets, regardless of, the strength of them. So if you have a great product, and you have an unwavering mindset that you're going to be successful with it, find somebody to help mentor you, so you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls and obstacles that many people don't avoid. I mean, you know better than I do. I mean, you're the guy that wrote the book on this. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but with mentorship and an unwavering determination to succeed, there's no question that the technology of, Shopify and, all these apps and all these amazing things that make things much more simplistic, anyone can be successful today, again, with that will and that unwavering approach.
Brilliant. I love it. Folks, reach out to Jay at jccampbell.com, soon to be jcampbell.com once he gets that transferred over. And if you want to reach out to Walker, because obviously Jay loves him and he's a great guy, and you want to talk specifically to him, you can reach out to him at walker@quietlight.com. Jay, thanks for coming on the Quiet Light podcast. Greatly appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Thank you, Joe. I'm grateful and humbled to be here.